Hello, people of the internet. Welcome back to another entry in Haskov's intermittent tutorial series. Today is part 3 in the Applied Energistics 2 series covering autocrafting. Getting an autocrafting system set up lets you make large quantities of items easily, as well as automating more involved or boring crafting tasks. Now, let's start with building a crafting CPU. A crafting CPU is a multi-block structure that has certain requirements to be valid. First, the blocks must be cuboid as a whole. This means that the blocks must be a single cube-like structure with no weird bits sticking out or L-shapes. Second, and finally, the CPU must contain at least one storage component. If you watch carefully, you can see me build this 2x2 crafting CPU out of a crafting monitor, a 64K storage, and 2 coprocessors. You can see that once I completed building the structure, the blocks all changed color. And that's how you can tell that the crafting CPU is valid. Though I want to have a quick aside about the blocks used. The crafting monitor allows us to see what the CPU is crafting as it's doing it. The 64K storage gives us hopefully enough storage to do small to medium-sized tasks, and the coprocessors allow the CPU to do more tasks simultaneously. With the CPU set up though, let's go to actually making things automatically. For this tutorial, we're going to start with a build that has some processing steps so I can show you how to hook machines up to the system for automated use. The build we're going to walk through is simple, a basic vanilla piston. The interest comes from the need to do multiple steps to end up with the iron bar that's needed to build it. We're going to pulverize iron ore with a pulverizer and then melt it into an ingot with the redstone furnace. That gives us the bar we need to actually make the piston with another machine that we'll discuss when we get there. Let's start with pulverizing the iron ore to start. To do any automation that involves machines, you need a few things. Those things are the machine, an ME interface, and patterns. For example, if I place this pulverizer down and put the ME interface in the crafting section of my inventory to turn it into a partial block, I can place it to connect the ME cable to the pulverizer. Now, if I go into the pulverizer's interface and make sure inputs and outputs are available to the ME interface side, we can set up the pattern. To set up the pattern, I need to go down below to the pattern terminal. Now that I'm at the pattern terminal, you can see that I already have a bunch of empty patterns stored in it over here. To make a new pattern that tells the pulverizer what to do, I first make sure that I'm in the processing pattern mode, and then I put a single iron ore in the left side and 2 pulverized iron ore on the right. This tells the system what to expect and how to make the process work. Now, I just take this pattern by pressing this encode pattern button here and put it into the ME interface, and we'll be ready to go. And there. I've put the pattern in the interface for the pulverizer. Now I just need to do the same thing for the furnace, and the system will now know how to make iron bars. And with that, let's actually go to making the piston. To make the piston, let's start with this pattern terminal. If I make sure I'm in the crafting pattern mode, I can just add the materials to make the piston right here and click the arrow to make the pattern. So if I click this little plus sign here, it moves materials over. I click this, and then it now has the piston encoded in it. Now let's go above, and let's see how we're gonna make the CPU craft the piston. If I place down an ME interface in block form and attach a molecular assembler to it, I can drop the pattern into the interface and the assembler is hooked up and ready to go. So let's go ahead and tell the system to make some pistons. Quick side note about patterns and ways of interacting with them. So I've come to realize that when I go to make the piston in the next step, I don't have enough of a single type of wood to construct all of the pistons I'm going to make. So what we need to do is to configure the pattern to allow for what's called OR-dict substitution. So if I go to my interface here, I can see that I have this encoded pattern that when you hold down Shift, it shows you what it can make. If I take this encoded pattern and put it in my crafting interface, it will dump out a blank pattern, therefore removing the pattern from the start. So when I go to actually make the proper pattern that I need to be able to swap in whatever planks I might have available, I need to make sure that this option right here that says allow substitutions of input components is toggled on. So if I click down right here, I now have a encoded pattern, and if you notice the bottom of that block of text says using substitutions, yes. So in instances where you want to explicitly use a certain type of material, you turn this instance off, this option off. In a situation where you want to use whatever acceptable materials are available, you turn this option on, and that allows you to utilize whatever blocks you need. So let's continue on with the tutorial. Now that I'm back at the crafting terminal, if I quick search for piston, you can see that the only piston we have is a sticky piston. So let's tell the system to make some more. If you look right here, you can see that the regular piston has a message that says craft underneath it. This means the system is aware of how to make the pistons from materials that it might have available to it. So if I click the piston button, it opens up a new menu asking how many I want to make. If I want to make 100 pistons, I click the 100 button and click next. That will show us the materials and processes we are going to do to make 100 pistons. If we click start, the system will schedule the creation process to whatever crafting CPUs you have available, and we'll be making the pistons. So let's go look at the crafting CPU, and we can see that we are crafting the pistons, and it's going to take a minute and 40 some, and our two machines are over here chugging away, making the ore and pulverizing it. And that's it. You can use this process to expand out with more machines and patterns to try to automate all the tasks you don't want to do manually. And if you've gotten this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.